Now, with the songs, Jared, that you did on The Wraith and also Transformers the movie, did these build a lot of anticipation for your first full-length?
Yeah, I think it certainly helped. I mean, it was, teasers from what was about to come in the sense that, the Wraith track, which I think is Never Surrender, was actually an old Mansfield guitar riff that we had called Street Life. But regardless, the Transformers was basically, they have that theme, and they were like, we need a minute 30 version of this, rockin', heavy guitars, heavy metal, blazing solo type of thing, and that's where we fit into that. But that song's already previously written, so.
I know for myself, I got into you guys through the Transformers movie because back then I was just in middle school and a typical bookworm and a science fiction kind of dude. And after getting the soundtrack, I just liked the bands and asked the record store guy, do any of these bands have full lengths? And then I eventually got into Dangerous Attraction that way.
Well, that's because it was not the easiest record to get at the time with their distribution, because I think they were ending their relationship with CBS at the time. But it was not, that readily available, and the fact that you actually, I suppose, asked the question to be able for the guy to order it and get it is great, because I haven't heard too many folks other than saying, hey, I can never get that record, and they didn't want to really pay the import price, which was twice as much. So, but I'm glad you were able to get it.
I placed a special order through one local record store, and it took months and months to get it, and luckily there was, I think it was wall-to-wall or listening booth, and they luckily had a copy in stock, but it wasn't something where you can go into any store and see 10 copies of it there. It was getting harder to find at that time.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's too bad, because I think, maybe, a lot of more folks would have experienced, what was Lion was about if they had that, availability at the time.
Now, Jared, when the new Transformers movie was made last year, were you guys approached in doing any music for the soundtrack?
We weren't approached directly. I was approached from the Harry Fox organization, which is the company out of New York that gives the royalties and collects them on your behalf. And they had said that there was initial response, I think, from Michael Bay, who was the director on that film, the new one that is. And all they wanted to do was sign off on the fact that, there was, the other version had existed with previous songwriters, and, we had put our bid on there, so our names finally appeared on that too. But after that, there was nothing other than that, and then friends of mine who saw the movie said that, there was a couple of different versions of it with, I think, a band called Mute Math, and one other or something that was basically the song, but it certainly wasn't up-tempo and rocking, like the Lion version, in my opinion.
Yeah, the soundtrack ended up being more of a new metal, modern metal kind of direction. I mean, it was okay, it got the job done, but I wish they had more old-school metal on there.
Right. Yeah, that was, I would have liked to have had that track out there, because that certainly would have exposed it to a lot more folks, being in that film, since the budget of that, film was quite enormous, as you know, so.
Now, Jerry, how was the songwriting process handled for Lion's debut full-length album, Dangerous Attraction?
Well, basically, Cal and Doug wrote, most of it in terms of the melody and stuff like that. I mean, the bass lines were just added to what was there, but I mean, we did a lot of rehearsing for that record as well, and, we have a few bit parts in there, but the majority, of course, vocal, lyric-wise, and music was more Doug and Cal.
Were there any B-sides that you recorded during those sessions?
Not that I really recall. I mean, there's some extra material, whether I would call it B-side or not, I don't think so, but that's what I'm thinking of, a Ronnie song now. Trying to think of the lyric that, anyway, I'll get back to you later on that, but I know we used it live, and it was not on the record. Scream It Out, I think it's called, or Shout It Out, rather.
Okay.
So, there was not too much, stuff from that, because you have to understand that the first Scotty Brothers record there, The Dangerous Attraction, actually the predecessor was songs before what that record was, which I don't think a lot of people really know.
Now, Jerry, Lion's sound was somewhere between power metal and LA metal. Was it tough for you guys to be marketed having such a unique sound?
Well, once again, I don't, we had fallen out with Scotty Brothers, and we didn't have the, quite the relationship there with them pushing that record as well. I mean, I think they kind of threw it out there, see if it would stick, and when it didn't, because of no fault of ours, I mean, we, did dates around it and wanted to tour and wanted the tour support and did a pretty high-priced video for Power Love as well. I think that, in terms of the sound, you already have the sound there with the likes of the other bands I was telling you about earlier. That certainly, it was friendly enough for them to sell units, so I would have thought that if our music had been played, and had been promoted a bit better, that, we would have sold a lot more units and, possibly grown a bigger fan base. But I think Lion's kind of confined to people like yourself, or that just seek out things as opposed to, or, we weren't commercially heard radio-wise and what have you. So therefore, it was more of a niche thing for people to find our material.
Now, Jer, for a debut full-length from a band, you guys were able to surprisingly self-produce Dangerous Attraction. Now, did you have to pull a lot of teeth to do this? I mean, were the labels trying to push a certain producer on you for it?
Well, there was at the time. I mean, Richie Wise, who had done the first two Kiss records, was a staff producer at Scotty Brothers at the time. And, we didn't feel that he kind of got what we were about, so we had picked an engineer, Bill Freeze, I think is his name, who had done some Alice Cooper records, had done Mark's solo record, mainly had that relationship, and we could get him in there, and I feel he got some pretty good tones, because that record sonically is pretty good. I mean, I know a few things I would do to it a little differently, but Richie Wise was on board to produce or reduce, depending on how you looked at it, and we were able to get it done, and did have a fallout with him, so.
Yeah, I did love the sound quality on that a lot, Jared. It was just very crisp, clear, loud, booming. Every instrument had its own pocket and just had great sonically stuff all over the place. Yeah, thanks. I mean, that's Bill Freeze who engineered that thing, and it, vocal tone is good. I mean, a lot of things about that record that it's one of the better records I played on today in my, resume, so.